We are alive. Hello again, guys. Welcome to our broadcast. Let me introduce my partner in the interview, Marcelo, and let me
Hello, guys.
introduce our guests here, Phil B. Lynch and Zeldan. Phil B. Lynch is writer, and Zeldan is creator behind the Immortal Blood. Actually, we got intensive and hyped interview we got right now. So stay tuned with us as we making and asking some hype questions to our guests. So hello there, guys.
How you doing?
What's going on?
It's cool, man. How is everything going with you, Phil and Zell?
It's going good.
I'm good. I'm good as well.
Glad to hear.
Well, we are going to be asking first a couple unscripted questions, which is actually always fun. After that, we are going to ask you the scripted questions we sent you on the Facebook, okay?
Yeah.
Well, the first one is for you, Phil. What's your secret origins?
Oh, you said Zell or Phil?
Phil.
I don't have any secret origins. I'm from originally from New Jersey. I live down in Virginia now. I'm 44 years old. I've been writing since I was about 8 or 9 years old. And I just had a passion for writing, passion for reading comic books and sci-fi and things like that.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah.
Hey.
So, I
Your
think Phil,
secret origins, Zell?
Me?
Yeah.
See?
No,
Yeah.
I read more manga than comics.
oh,
You know, I grew up more on like Dragon Ball Z, Naruto,
yeah.
Zatch Bell, things like that.
Very nice.
How did you both of you start making original characters, universes? How did you both start making such things?
Well, I started with a friend of mine probably when I was about 18 or 19. And then I met Zell probably in my mid-20s. And, he was a writer too. And then he basically told me about his stories and things like that. And then we kept in touch through the years. And he just came to me one day and was like, hey, why don't we just combine what we have already and, make our own stories together. So we started a whole universe, and a lot of the stuff that he has now and that I have now are not even part of our universe. That's just our original content that we've created on our own.
I see.
Yeah.
I think we lost.
Yeah, we lost Zell for a moment, but we are going to.
He's going to be right back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so in the meantime, Phil, what is your weapons of choice in materials for art?
No, he's a writer, man.
Oh, I made a mistake.
Well, writing is art too, so my weapon of choice would be either the pen or the computer and words.
There's any kind of software that you use for writing? I hear that for writing, for example, I use Celtex. Something similar that you recommend?
No, I just use Microsoft Words. I'm not deep into a lot of it. I also use Evernote at times, but I haven't.
I use Celtics as well.
I
there you
see.
go.
It's cool.
What's your weapons of choice, Zell?
Well, back to your other question. I had when I was younger, I always liked the process of creating something. So that's what made me get into writing. Is like you see something done in a comic or a manga or an anime or a cartoon, and you always think like, well, what if the character did this? And then I just took it from there and just started just saying, I might as well just make my own things instead of just wondering, what if another character did something that I wanted them to do? I could just kind of have them do what I wanted them to do. So that's kind of where I got started. And, as in terms of like, the choice, I always write my summaries on my I always write my summaries on my iPhone. And then after I write my summaries on my iPhone, I do use cell text to write out the scripts. So I usually like to write a lot of the summary first before I start writing any of the script, because the summary kind of, I use it as a roadmap to know where I want to go with the characters and the story.
Well, we're going to ask you the next one. Well, every one of us got a secret identity. As example, I like playing sport and being a chef in my kitchen. So I like to cook and make some crazy food out there. Well, I let Marcelo speak for his secret identity.
Yeah. Well, I like, for example, I like to draw, like just my main thing. But secret identity, I think, is gonna be like guitar and singing, and spending money on eBay and things that I don't need. Yeah.
So, what's your secret identity, Phil?
I love to cook too, but I mean, if you see in the background, I'm a kind of a collector. Small collection. Like to
You
cook,
call
though.
this small?
No,
You call this small?
Compared to some people, yes, this is small.
But it's awesome, man. It's awesome.
Appreciate it. It's not all mine though. It's not all mine. Part of it's mine, part of it's my wife's, and even my kids have some things in here. So
That's so cool. Family of collectors. That's amazing, man.
It's a family heirloom.
That's so cool.
Well, we think we lost Zell for a moment.
yeah.
So, what is the challenges you face while you are a writer? So, well, we got Zell back. So we're going to ask him his secret identity first before we move to the next question. What's your secret identity, Zell?
I own a restaurant. And
You what?
I own a restaurant.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And I also, I do a little bit of training with boxing and stuff. So, that's what I do.
What kind of food of restaurant?
Chicken wings.
Ah, yes, delicious. Yeah. Yes, perfect.
So we move to the next question, Marcelo.
Yes. Okay, so what challenges have you faced, like a creative person?
Well, for me, just writer's block in general. Or you come up with an idea and then I read a lot of comics and then I see someone may have created an idea sort of like mine. So I have to figure if I want to go back to the drawing board and do it all over, or do I just adjust it to what they wrote, or if I saw it on TV or whatever. That's really it. And then I guess trying to convey to the artist what I'm thinking on paper or whatever you may say, and letting them know, how I would like a certain scene drawn, or sometimes just going and letting them just go ahead and do what they want to do.
I see.
Please, Phil, adjust your camera. We can see a still photo of you.
It may be let me see here.
Okay. So, what is the challenges you face, though, while making your comics, making your webtoons? What challenges as an artist you face in your life?
I mean the biggest challenge is, I guess, trying to get a readership, because you don't have the money or the ability to really promote something the same as like these big companies, and people will read something just because the name behind it, like DC or Marvel
Yeah.
or Shonen Jump. They'll just read it just because they'll give it a try, because they, it has the name. Where with indie guys, it's harder because
It's harder, yeah.
we don't have the money, and it's just, we have just as good as stuff, to put out, but it's
So
just
true.
because we don't have the money or the means to promote it the same way. It's so much harder, and that's why you really wind up appreciating the readers that you do wind up getting, because they really are appreciating what your art and your writing versus the name.
Yeah. A friend of mine said that you can bring any crap or shit and post any brand on it. We're going to sell it for gold if you want.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. So it's hard, and then at the same time, you go through a period sometimes of approaching publishers and people to see if they would want to be a part of your idea, and or editors, and you either don't get a response, or they tell you no straight out, or they tell you they're not looking for something like this right now, and it's kind of, it can be discouraging, but you also got to remember that some of the biggest names in in comics and anime and entertainment were turned down several times by people, and those people didn't give up on those ideas. Some people held on to an idea for 10 years before it, and they did it themselves instead of allowing these people to tell them no. They just self-published, and eventually, through word of mouth, it got around, and 10 years later, it became a big thing. So it can be discouraging, and then obviously you face some people who are going to be negative towards your work. And I'm not saying any editors, publishers. I'm talking about people who actually are potential readers of your stuff. They're going to be negative towards your work, your art, your story, your characters, and sometimes that can be a little frustrating, because it takes a lot to put something out. It takes a whole lot to put something out, and once you put it out there, it is open to criticism, but it doesn't mean that that's the people shouldn't try to tear you down, because like I said, it's hard to put something out like that.
Well, totally agree with what you see, Zell. Yeah.
Okay, now
So, what do you think about this, Marcelo? I think it's very
I really
crazy,
agree.
and
you know when you create something, is new to the trendy information right now of the big companies, and however, we have to remember, and I think I mentioned it before in another show, is that all these big companies, it started with people like us with an idea of original.
yeah.
Jack Kirby did that in a response of what was happening in DC already, or something like that. And we can see even in the 80s, for example, if you like anime and manga, you can see, for example, great mangaka that I admire is Kentaro Miura with the title of Berserk. and
Mhm.
he started like a helper from Bronson and all these great artists, and he's just doing one comic, one manga, and look how great is that guy,
Yeah.
and he's working in that, playing
Yeah.
video games and creating that. So it's like it's original. He believes in himself, and the rest is history. So I don't see any way that we cannot achieve that just with determination, a goal, consistency, and the public is going to decide.
Yeah.
So we do our best. We
Yeah.
not nowadays. We not even depend on big companies. We have so many platforms, YouTube, Instagram, all these big things, and focusing good story, good art, and the rest is going to be, I think, almost like magic automatically if you give quality, of course.
Yeah. That's right. Well, so tell us about your future projects, Phil, first.
Well, I have a couple of projects. I have one called Nobles that I'm working with a young man named Andrew. You may know him.
No, I don't know.
And that should be out pretty soon. We're hoping about mid-September to beginning of October. October would be good. That's my birthday month anyway. Then I also have another project called Astronomical, which is a retelling of The Wizard of Oz. And I do that with a young man named Eugene Reeses. And he's really talented. So I'll have some of that artwork on my my 2 pages that I have, King Midas Media and Entertainment, and my Nobles page as well. And then I have another project called Clockwork, which I'm working with a young man from Brazil. His name is Nicolas Santos. He also works on a comic called North, which he has on Comicology. He's the artist on that. And then I have a couple of other, quite a few other projects with Zell, quite a few of them that we're working on that are in halfway through development. We're just looking for artists and things like that for them.
Man, you're like a growing small company. Actually, with all those projects you just mentioned. And I had a sneak peek about novels, and the script looks amazing.
So amazing. Cool, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what's your future projects, Zell?
Right now, I am currently I'm working on Immortal Blood. The 1-year anniversary is actually going to be in October. So I've been putting that out for almost a year. I'm also working on another project called Cyberpunk, and that's pretty much about a bunch of high school kids.
Webtoon too?
Yeah, another webtoon.
Hmm.
It's going to be another webtoon called Cyberpunk, which is about a bunch of high school kids who have these incredible powers, and there's other people and entities out there with similar powers who are, looking to use their abilities for, evil purposes.
I see.
And right now I've been getting artwork done for a few other projects that I have, but nothing that I'm putting out, in any real time frame that I have mentally. Cyberpunk will be started sometime in 2021, hopefully January 2021. And on those 2 projects, I'm working with 2 other artists, separate artists. One's name is Tom Kapung, and the other one is Miguel. Both of them, they fit the manga style. So, and they both helped me out tremendously with their amazing artwork.
Mm-hmm. That's so nice.
Yeah.
So it's like a futuristic project. In what year is the story developed? In the future?
Cyberpunk is actually a modern story. Um it's not actually.
We lost the sound here, though.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Now,
I think
I don't think you
we
can
lost
hear
the
us.
connection. He can still hear us, but we can't hear or see him.
he traveled to the future.
Yeah.
Talking about his comic, he suddenly opened a portal, and he suddenly.
It's funny that you said that. It's funny that you mentioned the future because Astronomical is basically the Wizard of Oz in the future. It's more of a spacefaring type story. It's not just the traditional story.
Mm.
Ah, that's right. That's so cool.
Yeah. So
You
can you give us a small sneak peek about Astronomical?
I don't have it. I have it on the phone. I don't know if I could. I can share it afterwards because I don't know how to share it through this. It's all on my phone. It's all on my phone,
Okay,
and I'm on my phone.
We are fine. We're fine. just mention it later, okay?
Yeah, matter of fact, I can send it to you now. I don't know if you'll be able to share it, but I'll show you it right now while we're talking.
I can post it on the links on the comment section.
Okay. Just give me a second.
Well,
Did we
so
get
we are going to move to the next question till Zell makes it back. How do you how do you start creating your universe or stories?
Well, first sometimes it's just a simple idea. For instance, astronomical was just a simple idea. It was a simple word, which is astronomical, and I was thinking of a space story. And then I decided that, what about the Wizard of Oz in space? And I decided to change the name to astronomical. Astronomical has to do with not just space, but stories that are, out of this world and stuff like that. So it was just a funny, fun wordplay, basically. And that's how I came up with the idea for that. And with that, just gotta figure out what you want to do with that story and how you want it to develop. With Nobles, it was actually it's not what it is now. With what you and I know it to be, was actually a revenge story. And I talked with Zell a little bit about it, and talking with him about it, I changed it to what it is today, and to what with the three kingdoms and the truces and everything going on with the kingdoms. But at first, it wasn't like that at all.
Mm. So how do you start creating a universe from scratch?
Just coming up with a character and coming up with a plot for that character, and coming up with a villain or villains for that character, and then giving them basically a purpose within that story. And once you have a purpose within the story for that character, then you can basically, that's how I go. I can basically go on with the story. But I do consult a lot with Zell with the stories. I'll bounce ideas off of him, and kind of gauge what he thinks of it and things like that. So he's a good help with me when I try to create something. And if I create something and he doesn't think that it's a good idea, I go back to the drawing board.
Well, same question is for you too, Zal. How do you start creating your universe? Any universe doesn't have to be Immortal Bloods, but you can use it as a reference for the question.
Really, a lot of times what I do is I start with like one character, and um, I always give them like a motive, like like what's the goal, and then like because with Immortal Blood, the main character's original goal, and I created this story uh probably about 10 years ago, and what happened is he just had a very basic um goal, which was to become the best swordsman in the world, which that's what a lot of people's goals are, because human ego, you always want to be the best that you can be, and inherently you always compare yourself to something else. So I think that was his original goal, and what happened is I had to give him a rival. So I gave him a rival, and then once I gave him a rival, I wanted them to have a connection. What's their connection to each other? And then once I had to create a character that was the connection, which is a master. So you have two rivals who learn from the same person, but they're different from each other in terms of appearance and skills. So then I still thought the idea was so, was too basic, even though certain basic ideas can be very, very successful depending on how they're written. But I just thought the idea was just still too basic. So I thought, well, a part of their adventure or part of their journey, what if there was something that was so powerful that was with them and they had no idea? What if you were carrying around a weapon of mass destruction and you had no idea, and you're just going off on these adventures, doing these things, and something's with you that's so powerful it can change the world, and you don't even know. And that's how I started. Like, okay, now you have this weapon. Who wants it? Why do they want it? How would they use it? And you know, and that's kind of how I go. It's just I get from one idea to the next idea to the next idea, and then I try to bridge these ideas together in some way, shape, or form.
Sounds so cool, man.
Yeah.
Whole universe. And that's like one of the things that I enjoy. You get in the story and it's a journey. You, the writer, you're traveling with the characters. So it's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so nice indeed. So, according to this question, if I wanted you to create something like the Justice League, okay, or like the Avengers, so what are the characters you are going to use to make something like this?
You mean like you wanted me to? So you want me to create like a Justice League and give you like references for a character?
A Justice League based on your mind, but a Justice League based on your own original creations.
Right. So it's difficult because a lot of that stuff has already been done, right? So like I'll tell you about because me and Phil, we do a lot of writing together. We have our separate projects, and then we have our projects that we do together as well. So there's like, okay, I'll tell you about a couple ideas. So I always thought like you have Superman, you have Thor, you have Iron Man. So like it's like doing something in modern day is like because it's done and everybody's doing it, right? So what we'll do is like we'll think of a time period that no one's thinking of. So why not do a Justice League or an Avengers in medieval time? Why not do an Avengers or Justice League, in the early 1900s? And
on what?
In the early 1900s. And then think about what's the political stuff that was going on during that time, and what would these characters be dealing with? Or if you're talking about the 50s or the 60s, you could be talking about them dealing with the Cold War. You could be, if you go back to the 20s, or you're talking about the aftermath of World War I. It could be so many different things, but a lot of times we always go to like this time period but everything is still relevant, even if it's in the past. So that's why like games like Assassin's Creed is so successful, because people are still interested in history in the past, and how can you tie that stuff to be relevant today? So like usually if I think of something like that, I try not to go to immediately, at least till today. And we could go say, let's go to medieval time period, or let's go to ancient Egypt, or ancient Japan, and think about what was going on there, and what if they had superpowers, and then build from that.
Great
Yeah.
approach. Yeah.
Yeah, so original. Well, the question, we're going to ask the same question to you too, Phil. If we wanted you to create your own original Justice League or Avengers, how are you going to do that? Your own original characters.
Well, I came at the end of what he said, and just working with him, it's basically the same answer. Where when I create something, I may just create it for the right now, but then I look and see what time period it can work with, because, like he said, I mean, I can also go beyond medieval times to where we can go back to ancient Egypt or Mesopotamia or any of those places and create a Justice League out of the gods that were there. Even the Greek pantheon and things like that. So it really just for me it's just just where you want to take the idea and what works best for us, because just trying to do it nowadays may not be the most interesting thing. You have an Avengers of nowadays, you have a Justice League from nowadays, and so many other people are doing their own little groups and squads from nowadays. But nobody, like Zell said, is really revisiting the past or even starting in the past. And if you're creating your own universe, why not start in the past? Because the past can shape your future.
Mm-hmm.
And you can go from there. And we have ideas that even with the past may not shape the future, because something that happened in the past changes the future anyway. So for me, it's just creating and starting wherever I want to start, and finding what is the most interesting time period to create that type of group.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, another way you could do it as well is something that's not based in what we're currently able to do, which is travel into space, right? So you could go into space and do like a futuristic society where everything is really your own, because it's not bound to like modern, day stuff. It's really, you could go into the future with that, or even, yeah, you
Alternate time periods.
alternate time period, alternate dimensions. You could do so many different things to try to build a superhero squad and each could have like their own unique story, of how they got to where they were. So there's so many different ways you could go about it, and make it, and really make it your own.
Mm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I combine
Actually,
all kinds of
I never expected those answers to be epic like this.
yeah, I was like, oh, that was epic. Yeah.
So what's our next question, Marcelo?
Okay, let me. Okay. Give me a second and close it. Okay, so this is for C, right? Or for Phil? Oh no!
Doesn't
How
matter.
do you? While you are while drawing, do you make changes to the original script, or you already that you wrote yourself, or you just leave it?
Oh, you can answer first, Phil.
Okay.
As far as you said the scripts, what I do with the scripts usually is I'll start with a synopsis, and then sometimes I'll do my scripts through the synopsis, and depending on if I've written the script and I send it out to the artist, then that's the script. But sometimes I'll write the script and I may not send it out to him, or I'll write the script and like I'll write the script for Andrew and he hasn't drawn anything yet, and I'll tell him not to touch it. And then the next thing you know, he comes back and there's additions to the script and there's more descriptive things as far as fighting goes or conversations and things like that. So I guess it just really depends on where I'm at with the script and where I'm at with the artist on the script and with their artwork.
Cool.
So about you, Zell.
I always change stuff, you know, because you always get like an idea, or you may want to change something and how you get somewhere. So, you know, and when I'm working with someone else, you know, especially like an artist, you know, they may see something while they're drawing, and to them it doesn't make sense. Because sometimes you can say something in your head, right? And then when you say it out loud, you're like, yeah, that didn't make sense. So like it's the same way with like, you know, with art. Like you could think something in your head and then put it on a paper, and then it just won't make sense. So sometimes, you know, working with an artist, you know, they can help you bridge those gaps, or even make something a little bit better or more epic, you know, because like there's times where like, you know, I'm working with Tom, and you know, I wrote something, and even a mistake, like he'll make a mistake, and then you know, I'll you know, not necessarily a mistake, but it's like he forgot to put something, and I'm like, yo, you forgot this, and you know, he's like, oh yeah, dang, I forgot, you know, I'll do this later. And then it winds up better because he forgot to put one thing that I added, and then it winds up being better later. So yeah, you always wind up changing stuff because you can't, you know, once you see it, you may say, dang, I wish I could have did this, or I wish I could have did that. So you know, during the process, you definitely wind up changing things, and or you may get an idea, or you may change, you know, what you want this character to do or to say, um, you know, because you want each scene to be as good as it can. So what you thought yesterday was good may not be the same as what you think today is good. So yeah, I wind up changing a lot of stuff as I go, um, and sometimes I'll even ask Phil if he thinks I should do something, you know, with a certain character, and you know, I'll get his perspective, and you know, because you know sometimes even we think a little differently, and I think that's why we work well, because he's more knowledgeable about American comic books, and I'm more knowledgeable about like the Eastern, uh, you know, manga and stuff. So you know, basically it's us trying to uh, bring the best of both worlds together.
Mm,
That's so cool.
yeah.
Very, very interesting.
Well, probably I didn't ask you this. What type of superhero or villain are you guys? Let's start with Phil. Are you a superhero or a villain?
I'm a Jedi. Probably a gray one too. If you ask Zell, he'll probably say I'm just a straight Jedi, not a gray Jedi, not a Sith. I don't really consider myself to be a hero or a villain. I can be both at the same time. But
So
I usually
you will be like
try to walk right in it. What'd you say?
you will be like Master Window, like in between both sides.
Yeah.
Of the force?
Yes, and that's funny because he's probably one of my favorite. So you know he can skirt on the dark side and still do stuff on the light side. So you know that would probably explain me. I mean,
That's
you
so
can ask
cool.
Zell. He says I have a dark side to me.
Yeah.
What about you, Zell?
To answer, first I want to answer the question for Phil. He's Anakin right before he, you know, betrayed the Jedi. He's like right there. But I'm more like you know, I don't know. Like it's hard. It's hard to say because, you know, I don't agree with a lot of people sometimes, and I think that's kind of what helps me with my writing and stuff because I'm willing to put a lot of things in there that people may not agree with or that they people may see as controversial. But art to me is one of those areas that shouldn't be bound by society's standards. I mean, you don't want to be like, blatantly um, uh, offending anyone. You don't want to be blatantly offending, but in terms of just, provoking thought, you know. So I don't know. It's kind of hard because, like I said, I think a lot of different things, and I could be on one side of the thing of the aisle on one day, and then I'd be on the total opposite of the aisle the other day, and everyone's looking at me like, I thought you thought like this, and I'm like, yeah, but So I don't know. I think I'm more like like an anti-hero, like
Ah, I see.
Ah,
I was gonna call him that, but I was waiting for him to say it.
I can be more like an anti-hero, like where I might be I might be there to help the heroes. They just don't know it yet.
That's a cool.
I don't know if
Yeah.
you guys ever watch wrestling, but he would be the equivalent of Stone Cold Steve Austin, where one second he comes down and he helps you, and the next second he's stunning you. That's him. That's him.
I never asked you this question, Marcelo. Are you a villain or a superhero?
Oh my God! I think I'm gonna be like also kind of like I think I'm gonna be like Rorschach of Watchmen,
Uh,
something like that. Something like that.
That's a
What
bit
about
Like
you, Andrew?
yeah, chaotic, chaotic good. I think. Yeah.
so you, Phil, how do you start making your own research while creating characters, creating the universe? How do you start making your own research? Do you search the
Well,
web? Do you get to the books? Do you get to the movies? How do you build such things with research?
before it was books. When I was young, it was just magazines because telling my age, we didn't really have a lot of access, to the internet at first. So it was just books and doing research through encyclopedias or magazines and stuff like that. Now it's online, and believe it or not, Zell is like a walking encyclopedia. I swear to you. So he's like Mr. Google. So if I don't know it, he probably knows it, or he'll do the research. Also, my wife will help me do the research. Some of my oldest daughter, there's some things that I speak with her about that she's knowledgeable. Even my second oldest too. So it's just speaking to people, not just going off of a book or just going off of the internet, but getting other people's insight on some of the things that you may be interested in creating, and then with that, you can create your idea, your character, or your whole storyline and universe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You, Zell?
Yeah. So what I like to talk to different people from different backgrounds, because you can really get like a crazy idea just from the differences in culture from different people on earth. Like, you know us in America, we because we grew up here, we often think that every place is like the same, and it's not. Every country is very different, and you can get ideas simply from culture, speaking to people about religion, um you know uh even like I watch a lot of documentaries and stuff too, stuff about history, stuff about the animal kingdom, You know, because you know, it's funny. I was just talking to Phil about this earlier, where I was saying that a lot of the things that we build today are based off of things that animals can already do. Not as powerful, obviously, because we have machines, but the animals already do that stuff. So, like, you know, every airplane is modeled after a bird. You know, these
Yeah.
jets are modeled after birds. You know, they want to find out, you know, why they can fly, why they're aerodynamic, you know, why can they dive so fast, things like that. So, like, we, you know, there's always something here that we can learn from, and you know, documentaries help do, you know, a great job. And you know, usually what I do is, if I'm not on the phone with Phil or somebody, I'll throw on a documentary and just listen to it while I'm playing the video game. And if something is said that catches my eye or my ear, I should say, then I rewind it and I watch the entire part that I thought was interesting. So usually I just throw on something while I'm playing the video game and I just listen to it. And that's kind of how I get my ideas, or I do my research. It's just through listening through, you know, many things. And when you mentioned YouTube, YouTube is
The Holy Grail. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Did we lose Z?
I think.
I think that he lost connection.
Yeah, he may have been getting in the elevator. Andrew, you you skipped the question though. Andrew, you didn't answer if you were a hero or a villain.
I was trying to escape from the question, man.
I'm like an elephant.
Well, actually, I think sometimes I'm a hero, but usually when I start playing role-playing games, like Fallout, Skyrim, and such games like this, I start as a good guy and stay away from trouble. But actually, in the end of the game, I find out that I must get the bad ending out of it. Why is that? Because I've been a bad guy in the game and I've been a villain. So I'm a crazy villain that he thinks he did good to the guys, but I'm actually a villain in the origin. So I'm a villain type character, a crazy type of villain character.
That's like cool.
So the next question, Marcelo.
Okay. Maybe please. Okay, so any kind of tips or tricks that you would like to share?
As far as what, writing?
Yeah, writing.
Yeah, writing. Yeah.
Write what you love. Write what you love. And do your research. And always have somebody to bounce your ideas off of. Whether it's one person or two people, you know. I bounce a lot of ideas off of Denzel, and I'll tell my wife a lot of my ideas, and you know, a lot of my friends too. I'll tell them ideas just to gauge and see if they have any interest in it, and if you know you get a couple of people that have interest in what your idea is, then you can go along, you know, go ahead with it, and always don't be afraid of criticism, because you know, when someone is asking you questions, my stepson, he when I bounce the idea off of him or tell him an idea that I have, he'll ask me why. He's in his 20s, but it's like I'm talking to a 5-year-old, because he's asking me why this and why that and why the other. You know, don't get discouraged with that. It's always a good thing, because they may actually find plot holes and poke holes in some of your ideas, and that's what you want. So that you can, you're not going to be able to always fill every single hole, but you know, if there's a hole that you can fill, then you fill it. We know watching movies and reading books where we say that made absolutely no sense, and I would have done this and done that, but that's hindsight. So you know, don't get discouraged when someone pokes a hole in something that you had written, because that's the past anyway.
So do you
How do
find
you
that
go?
sometimes? Yeah, go Marcelo.
Oh,
go
sorry,
ahead.
sorry. Oh, sorry. How far do you go in the creation of a character regarding story? How far? For example, you have a character you created, you vision in your mind that, I don't know, maybe a detective or something like that, and you put it into script. Do you do like another script which is only for you for the origin, or also do a full story and then just take some parts?
I'll let Zell answer that one first, since I answered
Mm.
the last one. Were you able to hear that?
Yeah, I was able to hear it. Yeah, I go as far as almost pretty much to the end. A lot of times what I actually do is after I create a story, I write the end of the story.
Okay.
And then after I write the end of the story, that's when I go back and then I try to do as much of a full synopsis. So what I'll do is I'll write the entire summary of the story, from the beginning to the end. And a lot of times I'll try, there's really no gaps because, you know that you're just trying to get to this point. And once you know what the motive, like I said, once you create the villain and you have your antagonist and they both have their motives, now it's all about just getting to the final confrontation. So usually I'll write the beginning and then I'll write the end of the story, and then everything else you see is what's in between.
Cool.
I find myself doing. I'm sorry, Marcelo.
No, go you first.
I find myself doing the same thing. Like with Nobles, I started with the beginning and I went to an ending. I bounced the idea off of Zell, and then I started a whole story with it, and then brought it back to him, and he said, "Well, you can expand on that." So then I scrapped a lot of what I had and went back to the drawing board, and it's like he said, it's pretty good to start, from the beginning, write the beginning, and then write your ending, because in the middle of that, that's what's the meat, of your sandwich. That's what everything else that you put into that story is the middle. You have the two buns, you have the top and the bottom, the beginning and end, and then you can just throw everything else in there, and you already know how you want it to end. So now you have just a big plethora of story to tell with, the antagonist, the protagonist. You have, the other characters within the story. So I basically do it almost the same way.
I see. That's so cool.
Yeah, but I'm going to ask you the same question here. Let's start first with you, Phil. What happens when you get stuck with your scripts? When you get stuck with events, how are you going to get out of
it? I don't touch it for a while, because usually if you force it, you come up with a pretty bad idea, and so.
Did he freeze?
Mm.
Did I freeze?
Yeah.
I think I may have frozen.
No, you are fine, Phil. You're fine.
Oh,
We
fine?
can
Okay.
see you. We can see you.
Okay.
Well, so we are going to start this with you, Phil, till Zed gets back. What happens when you get stuck with the events while writing, with the powers? How is this character going to kill this another, and things like that? What do you do when you get stuck while writing?
I do the same thing that he does. I have one story that I had started on, and I got stuck just going from, it may just be taking this character from a walk up the hallway to what he does next. And because I can't think of that, I'll just put it on pause and come back to it when I have an idea, and then I may even bounce an idea off of him or someone else just to see, what they think, on how I'm trying to further the story or bring the story forward. And I think that's with anybody. Just leave it alone. Even as an artist, if you're drawing something and you just can't seem to get it right, you need to leave it alone for a little while. I do the same thing with video games. I have a bunch of games that I get to the hard part and I can't pass it, and I'll leave it alone and then come back to it a couple of months later, and then it's just boom. I get past that part. But I'm with Zell. If you try to force it and you try to just force your way into it, then it comes up bad, or it can come up bad.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm. So the next question is to you, Marcelo.
Yes. What it takes to be a webtoon writer or an artist?
Well, I'm not there yet. That would be a question for Z, but I mean, for me right now, what it takes to be a webtoon writer is just dedication and determination, and believing in what you're writing, and believing in the artist that is drawing it for you, that they are putting out the best visual story that you have written. And for me, with the gentleman that I'm working with, I feel that each one of them brings a certain visual talent to what the story that I want to tell. So, it's for me, it's just believing in yourself, believing in what you're putting out, believing in what you're doing. Because I've seen stuff on webtoons that I may not like, but these people are putting it out and they have thousands of followers. So they believed in themselves, they believed in their product, and they believed in the artist that put it out. And sometimes they may even be the artist.
I see. Yeah, you transmit that the confidence to the audience and that feeling, right? And that's what attracts also the audience. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think.
Yes. But sometimes you never know what's going to attract the audience and what the audience is going to like. It's just, with that, it's kind of a wing and a prayer. You put it out there and you hope that, you hope that a larger audience likes what you put out, because you may have friends and family that like what you put out and they're going to support it. But then you need that larger audience to support what you put out and what your vision is. Zell's back.
So we was asking Phil about what does it take to be a webtoon writer / artist, Zell. So what does it take to be such thing?
I mean, it just takes a level of determination, because it's easy to talk yourself out of something, even if you really want to do it. So, I mean, it just takes some time and effort to dedicate yourself to it, because a lot of us have jobs and other things that we're doing. And, sometimes, if you're relying on an artist to do work, it can be tough. So it really just takes some level of determination. If you're an artist and a writer, that's great. If you're just a writer, I mean, it's a little harder. And if you're just an artist, it's a little harder than that, because you need somebody to come to you with the script and presumably some money, so that you can get paid for your work. And but it really just takes it takes a lot of dedication, because you're going to spend a lot of time and effort and money into putting something out there, hoping that one day it pays off in some way, shape, or form.
I agree.
But once it's up, once forever, as long as Webtoon exists, as long as Tapas exists, your stuff is up there and ready for anybody to read forever. So, that you're really making your mark, and for the people who read it, presumably if they're reading it over a long period of time, they will always remember your story. So
I agree in everything. Absolutely.
Well, so how do you arrange your time, Zell? As a webtoner, how do you arrange your work schedule to be working on the stories, the writing stories, and the art, your schedule, running the restaurant you just told us about? How are you able to do all this?
I mean, you have 24 hours in a day, so it's really about trying to manage each hour, because you gotta, I guess, if you have a job, you have to manage 8 hours of that time to that job, and really, pretty much what you gotta do if you're a writer or an artist, when you come home, you have to dedicate a couple hours or a few hours to doing your craft. You have to dedicate some time to that, because if you don't, it's not going to get done. So really it's all about just dedicating a couple hours to every day, dedicating a couple hours every day to your craft, even if it's just writing one page, or if you're an artist, drawing one page. You just gotta, whether it's not even the inking, just the penciling. If you just do the penciling, of that one page, you could put out 5 pages a week. You could pencil, ink, pencil ink, and then after that, take the final day to do some edits or whatever it is you want to do. But you just gotta dedicate at least 2 to 3 hours every day, to doing your work, your craft, and you have to love it. You have to like it. You can't see it as a job or a burden, because then if it's a job for you, and that's why I try to get as much input from my artists that I work with as much as I can, because
Do
I
you
want it to
take
be
a
fun
day
for them.
off from working on your webtoon series?
I don't. Nah, I work every day.
You work every day on it.
I work, like, whatever I'm doing, I do something that you could consider work every day. Yeah, I work every day.
I think everyone does that here, right? It's too much fun to quit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
But sometimes we'd like to play games and leave the drawing for a while too, and
no.
probably
I play plenty of
getting
video
to rest
games.
my eyes.
I play plenty of video games. I think the thing is like, if you look at guys like Akira Toriyama, right now, he's been chilling for like the past 20 years, 20 to 30 years. He hasn't, like, he hasn't been doing anything. And, I mean, when, like guys like that, or Achiro Oda, who's put, like, One Piece, this dude is putting out 2 chapters a month. That's 40 pages. That's insane. Like, so, like, these guys, they're working so hard. So, like, and hopefully One Piece is done, let's say in 10 years. If he's done in 10 years, he doesn't have to work for the rest of his life. He's created some type of brand that will outlast him. Like, he's going to die and people are still going to be talking about One Piece. People are still going to be talking about Dragon Ball Z. So that's kind of how I look at it. Like, they worked so hard when they were younger. And now Akira Toriyama doesn't even draw it anymore. He doesn't draw Dragon Ball Super. He has a younger guy who is a huge fan of it, who mirrored his style, who's doing it now. So he doesn't draw anymore. And all he does is he sits in a room and tells them what he wants to happen, and they write it down, and then they go draw it. It's insane. So, like, he worked hard when he was younger. So, like, in his later years, he could do whatever he wants, and he's worth millions of dollars. And I mean, it's still going strong.
How many years do you think that these great writers and artists work? I read once that at least minimum 7 years to 12 years. to master a discipline like that and reap the fruits of success?
The great thing is, I think a lot of people pick that stuff up when they're young. So like, you know, when you're an artist, like you start drawing when you're young. Usually, some people pick it up later in life. Like, you know, my friend Tom that I work with, he picked it up a little later in life. But like, you know, a lot of artists pick it up when they're young. And as Phil said, he's been writing since he was a kid. I've been writing since I was a kid. So, you know, you wind up you wind up perfecting it through, I guess, a lot of reading and seeing what guys did that you like, and then, you know, you put your own spin on stuff. So yeah, I think it probably does take a long time to perfect something, because like the stories that I wrote when I was like, you know, a kid, like I only have like one still that I want to put out. The rest of them are like trash, so I don't even look at them the same anymore. But yeah, I think it probably does take about 7 to 12 years or wherever he said to try to master something, unless you're extremely talented at it.
Yeah.
And that's a little different, because I, like, when I was younger, I knew a lot of artists. I have a friend today, you know, and he's just extremely talented. And then if you go on Instagram, you see a lot of these guys on Instagram with their art, and I'm shocked to find out some of them are like 14, 15, 16. You know, because, you know, when I was younger, when I was in art class, I never seen, like, you know, I had a couple friends like that, but it's crazy. Those people were rare to see them that good at that age. Where now it's like, it's so many of these kids, or it may seem like it because we're all on the internet and we're just interacting with each other. But, you know, you got some kids that are just extremely talented at 14, 15, 16, and they draw very well. Very well. It's this close. It's like that close to being professional. Some of those kids, and they don't even realize it.
With writing, though, it's a lot harder because, you know, you don't break into it like that. So, you know, there's people that I know, people that are just writing books now that are in their late 30s or 40s, and they've probably been writing since they were young, and it's just a case of getting a break, and then actually having people read your work and saying, "Hey, this person can write," or "This story is great." And you know, there's so many people writing so many things that it sometimes it's not really the 12 years to become a good writer. It's the 12 years to actually get noticed that you are a good writer. You know, that's what it is. You know, and it's just that's the hard part of it, for people to actually take notice to what you're writing, and to take notice that it's actually good. You may, you know, build a small fan following, and you may never reach that upper echelon that you want to reach. But I think all of our goals is to just create a brand, create our brand, and create our brand for ourselves, and to get that brand to be as big as we can make it.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
and then, you know, sometimes in life, you never actually get that break until you're dead. You know, or it's years after your work is done. You know, like Blade Runner is one of those examples where it was one of those movies that came out, and, you know, no one really paid it any attention, and then just one day it just, you know, everybody just was like, "Oh, it's one of the greatest movies ever."
Yeah, and it becomes like an icon in cyberpunk, right?
Yeah, it just became one of the greatest movies ever, and I'm like, that's crazy. Like, nobody watched it in the movies. Nobody went to go see it. And then, you know, later everybody's recognizing it as this great work of art. And so sometimes you never actually get that break until after you put the pen down, at least with that story, and, or, you know, after you're dead, you know, and then everybody's looking at it like, "Oh, that was actually pretty good," you know. So it kind of sucks, you know.
But I think it also is like a matter of if you are a writer and you have this story. I think the stories mature also. Like during the period of time of your life, you experience different things, and you kind of put things or based on the experience or a different point of perspective, different from drawing, which is putting practice and studying, mastering a skill. But the also in writing, I think it's also a thing of the story matures. I think sometimes it takes. I have read that writers takes sometimes 20 years to write a story, right?
Yeah, one person comes to mind when you say that, and she's actually one of my favorite novel writers, because my grandmother was the one who used to read this book to me, and it's Harry Potter. J.K. Rowling, she I think is what you're talking about personified. Like, she matured the writing as the story went on. It started out as like a kid's story,
Yeah.
and then they got into more mature themes as the story went on. So yeah, definitely. As you get older and you get more experience, and you don't want to be redundant and tell the same story over and over and over again, so you wind up thinking of different ideas, and you know, and she was really writing to her audience, because we were kids when she first came out. I was at least a kid when it first came out, and then I got older, and it's like, would I be interested in reading The Cat in the Hat at 15? No. But she continued to grow and mature the writing to keep up with the age of the readers. And she really kept her audience that way, I think.
Yeah, that's cool.
And it's also sometimes you have to, like he said, not just mature with the audience, but mature with the time as well. So you may have written something that would have been relevant 10 years ago, and now it's not relevant. So do you change the story to keep the relevance of this time, or do you try to keep that story back in that time and still tell that story? That's always the risk that you run when you're a writer too. And you may try to tell that story that you wanted to tell 10 years ago, and that story right now is stale, or events that have happened in between the last 10 years cause you to, force you to change that story.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So we are going to move to the next one. How do you build a rich character with deep background? Let's start with Phil.
How do you build a rich character with what?
With deep background. Deep background.
Deep background.
Yeah.
That for me, it's just it's really, like I said before, it's really having someone else or other people to build that character with, where you're building a background for that character, and you bounce the idea off of people, or you just say that idea to someone and see if they're receptive to that idea. Because just because you think that you've built this great character and everyone's gonna love him doesn't mean that everyone's gonna love this character. And sometimes it's really giving that character flaws, because a lot of times when you read stories, well, I thought that anyway with a lot of anime, like, let's say Goku, he's like this guy that just doesn't have any flaws, and he always wins, and he always finds a way to win. And it's just like, sometimes I just want to see him lose, or not be able to actually defeat this person. And I laugh about that a lot with Zell. And it's really about building that character and giving that person flaws, and then seeing what other people think of that character before you go on. Don't just try to make this person Superman, because look at Superman now. Now, like, either you love Superman or you hate him, because he's just this guy that, you're like, he doesn't have any flaws other than kryptonite. So then they had to, over the years, create the story for him to give him flaws. So you know you want to create characters that have flaws and have backgrounds that you can dig deeper into and show what these flaws were or what these problems were with this character or these characters.
Yeah, I agree.
So how do you build a rich character with deep background, though?
First of all, I want to address what Phil said, because Goku has plenty of flaws, and Goku has lost plenty of fights. He actually never won the martial arts tournament until the last story arc of Dragon Ball. He lost against Tien, he lost against Master Roshi. He never could actually win the tournament. He always lost, and then he came back stronger or better. And but I forgive Phil because he never really watched that stuff. But I'm like, I think a lot of times what happens is these what they do, and what I noticed that a lot of the characters that we all love come from is some type of pain. Spider-Man, he lost Uncle Ben. Batman lost his parents. Superman, his whole entire species was, nearly wiped out. The Flash lost his mother. And if you go to anime, Naruto grew up without his parents, and everybody shunned him because of the power that he had. A lot of the characters that you wind up loving, they come from some sort of pain that people can identify with. Some type of realistic background that it's tragic, and that tragedy is what makes them become stronger, because in each one of those characters they never gave up. And that's kind of the theme of all comics, of all stories, is that no matter what your background is, no matter what trials or issues that you may have been going through, don't give up. And it makes those characters better, stronger, and people are able to identify with those characters based on the pain that they see them go through, because it may touch a nerve for them, or they have some type of empathy where they feel for that character. So that's really what it's about, I think, is coming up with a proper story that, because nobody wants to see the character that grew up with rich parents, and everything was provided for them, and everything was given to them, and they never really faced any type of consequences, or that's kind of one of those things where it's like, why are we reading this? This is this guy's life is perfect.
Yeah.
You're describing Richie Rich.
But even like
Yes.
when you see they'll put a rich character in a story, they have some type of flaw, or their family, whereas like they're rich but their parents don't spend time with them, so they're lonely, or or their parents may be the type of people who are snobs and look down on the poor, or something like that. So they want to fight against their family because of the things that their family is doing to people that are less fortunate. So there's some type of conflict within the person, but it's always about some type of pain and being able to have the readers empathize with that pain. And that's kind of how you build a character with the rich backstory, and basically they're making their motivations stronger than that pain.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Well, that was a rich answer indeed. So, which is better for you, working for yourself, your own projects, or working for a company?
I've never worked for a company.
If you are offered the chance to do so, what's better for you?
Well, for me, if I work for a company, I'd bring the other mad scientists along with me. But if I worked for a company, I would have to almost have free reign with that character or those characters, because I would want to tell my own story about that character within the parameters of what was already told. Um, but if I can't do that, then I'd rather do what I'm doing now, which is indie. So I tell the story of my character, and when we get big, then I'll have other people coming to me asking me about my character and what they can and can't do. I would rather that than to work, for another company, and you're trying to tell this awesome story, and they're like, no, 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 this is what happened to me. This is what happened with the last 3 Star Wars movies. And, you have people that are just like, disgruntled. So I'd rather work for myself than to work for someone else.
So what about you, Zell?
It really depends, because I have a whole bunch of my own ideas, and the crazy thing is, when it comes to like manga stuff, I'd rather work on my own. But when it comes to comics, there's some ideas, and Phil will tell you that, like I'll come to him and I'm like, yo, if I was the writer for this, I would do this, and this. And then, Phil's always like, oh, let's just use those ideas for our stuff. So that's where, that's where sometimes we get ideas from. But sometimes it's hard to do that, because the idea that I have is so ingrained into what they've done that you can't take it. You can't take the idea. And some of these people, like he mentioned, Star Wars or DC Comics, they're sitting on some really good stuff that I just would love to sit in a room and just just shoot them ideas and get paid for it, like consulting almost, and get paid to do it, like just to shoot them ideas and see what they come up with, because I was also upset with Star Wars, like Phil.
Oh yeah.
It was so bad that me and him started talking about we start making enough money just doing like a fan fiction, and paying for it. Just no, we're not gonna get money back. Just just put it out there, just cause this is that bad. So yeah, it really depends. Like if it's manga, I'd rather work on my own stuff. But if it's like comics, that I'm kind of split in half, because I have my own stuff. I have my stuff with Phil, and our stuff is really good. But I'm looking at some of these other companies, and I'm like, oh, you guys could do this, and that, and it's hard to kind of convert it into our stories, because our stories are so different from each other that we can't take it. But Star Wars is really the main one I'm talking about. Like, there's like ideas that they're sitting on, and I'm like, yo, you guys can do this and that, So it's cool,
Did you create? Do you have an idea for the first one when Rey appears? I was so upset because everything was good. I think everything was good until Rey grabs the lightsaber in the forest.
That's so crazy. That's so crazy. Because we said the same thing. Yo, he literally said the same thing. After that, the movie just goes downhill. It made no sense. It made no sense that she could beat somebody who was trained since he was a kid.
Yeah.
By Luke Skywalker in a lightsaber fight, and she never touched one. That it makes no sense. It made no sense. Like, there's no way you could beat a sword master, and this is the first time you're picking up a sword. There's no way you're gonna win that fight.
Yeah,
and that it wouldn't matter if it was a male or female. It's just that a person. There's no way that a person. There's no way that I'm just picking up a sword right now, and I'm gonna go against a world-class fencing artist, and I all of a sudden I best them. It's impossible.
Yeah, and
So-
also Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, they were Jedi Masters and they were fighting a Sith. And it was really hard. So let's imagine that the Kylo Ren maybe let's suppose maybe 60% of the Sith training, maybe. So
But he still had Jedi training.
But he still had Jedi training, which is
there's
no way that could have happened. There's no way that should have happened. There's no way. There's no way.
Yeah.
So that, and then after that, the entire series just went on a downhill spiral, and it just looked like they were going in one direction, and then after that, they were just like, you know what, we can't have this lady lose while she's out here alone in the forest. And there's ways they could have fixed it, but it just that was just horrible. I've never been that upset at a movie until I seen that. That was horrible. And that is actually funny that you mentioned, because that exact part is the same part that me and Phil were like, that's some BS.
I gathered with a friend, remember, and we were so depressed, and we got something to drink, and we got some pizzas and stuff like that, and we were just drinking, and we started creating an arc of story, and it was pretty cool because you want to hear it. It's kind of short, but you are a writer, so you're gonna feel everything out. So the idea was that Luke appears, but his lightsaber in the fight with Kylo Ren malfunctioned and damaged the crystal. So they have to basically go to a journey to the planet where are the crystals, and is taken by the Siths, and they make like a adventure there, and they were able to make the new lightsaber, and eventually all these things happen, and they're gonna fight the Sith Lord. I don't remember because it was like maybe 4 years ago, 5 years ago, so I don't remember quite well. But the idea was that Luke was fighting the Sith Lord at the end because it was the cool thing, and other Jedi Masters manifested with him, fighting. How's this this smoke? Smoke. And so the idea was that Luke appears and start fighting, but at the same time, at the crucial end, when he was like, having difficulties, maybe Obi-Wan appears, or maybe something like that, and the Force goes. And we fantasized so much about that, and I think it was even cooler that how we ended. So, do you have any ideas also that you created when you saw the movies?
Oh yeah, I mean it was crazy. Like we had a bunch of ideas about that, but the craziest thing that we were doing was like we were thinking about like a fan fiction of like what if you remember when General Grievous captured Palpatine?
Yes.
We were thinking, what if Dooku told Grievous to kill Palpatine instead of actually bringing him back? And so Dooku actually becomes the Sith Lord. And that's what we were like basing it, like our entire like thing on, like our entire fan fiction on. And it was based on like that idea of like, and it's a bunch of, but Anakin still becomes Vader, but instead of being under the Emperor, he's under Dooku.
Oh, that's so cool.
So it's like, and how he becomes Vader, it changes. It's not Obi-Wan that does it. Like we changed a lot of things, but but for that, the new one, it was so messed up that we went all the way back to that.
Wow.
It was so messed up, like, because like even like you could have fixed that the Force Awakens, but after the Last Jedi, what they did to Luke Skywalker was just so out of character. He did this whole thing where he almost sacrificed himself to save his father, who killed billions of people. He killed billions of people, and
but
his nephew has a thought, one evil thought of killing someone, and he's like, "Yeah, I gotta kill this guy." Like that's insane. That's That's insane. So that's how I was just like, nah. I mean, they did such a bad job.
Oh, the scene when Luke and Rey, they have an argument, and Luke falls,
No.
and I don't even remember. I think I mentally blocked the movie. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't like
the films are pretty bad, and there's no excuse. There was no excuse for what they did. It made no sense, and
we weren't even thinking of getting rid of Rey. It was more or less making it more practical than what they did, because they didn't have her like flawed at all. You know, they skirted with, oh, maybe she could turn to the dark side, but there was nothing. She was like
yeah, everything she picked up, she was good at it. She was good.
It was yeah.
She was good at the lightsaber. She was good at flying ships. She was good at shooting guns. She was good at everything. Like, and that's impossible. That's impossible. No one's good at everything. And it made no sense because, you know, I used, like I said earlier, I used to train a lot in boxing. And, you know, if your mentor or coach or master gives you enough training, Kylo Ren should have been good enough to challenge Luke.
That's true.
But you can't do that if he's losing to Rey. You know, the first time she's like you took out all suspense from the rest of the movies because we already saw that she could beat him. So now there's no point to any of the other movies, like, because it's like, all right, well, you got this bad guy, but he lost. You know, he lost.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. So it's crazy. You can't do that to your villain. You can't have them lose that early on, unless. Because I do have one idea, but it's not out. It's not, but the main character is actually the villain. And
yes.
He actually goes through the growing pains that you would see the main character go through. So he does lose, but the reason he loses is because he's actually the main character. He's growing into being that big bad villain. You know, but you can't if he's not the main character, you can't have him lose like that, especially early on.
I remember that my friend and we created another one where Kylo becomes a Jedi again, and Rey becomes a Sith, but full Sith, and Luke dies. He becomes actually the hero of the Skywalker. And I think it was even more cool in a certain way, but yeah, definitely there's a lot of things to do. Why don't you just got a comic book from the hundreds of comic books of Star Wars and just make a movie about that? I don't know.
Or the novels. They had novels. Kathleen Kennedy said that they didn't have any source material.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, she said that they had that Marvel has an advantage because they have source material where they don't have any source material, and it's like, what are you talking about? Like, you know, what are you talking about?
I had bookshelves full of all the source material up until when Disney bought it, and then they said that all the stuff that I had read was non-canon, so I got rid of all of it. You know, I had books. I'm talking at least 30, 40 novels, maybe.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
It might be more, but I gave them all to the library because they're non-canon, so it didn't matter anymore. But for them to say that they didn't have any source material is just a lie.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Well, we came to the last part of our interview, which is going to be an unscripted question. I'm going to tell you a title for a book, and you're going to make a small summary for that title, as creating a small universe with very little words for this title. Okay? So let's start with the first one. Space Candy Cats.
Space Candy Cats?
Yeah.
See, now this could be different because I'm a little older, so we used to use the word cat to describe other people, like, oh, this cat over here. So space candy cats could be, a play on some guys that are. I can't do it. I tried. I'm trying, but I got nothing, man. I'm gonna pass it over to the gentleman that does the anime manga. See if he can come up with something.
What about it, Zell?
You gotta answer the question, Bill.
You're not answering it. Oh goodness, space candy cats.
I don't know. Like that's I mean, I guess.
Kids book.
Yeah, it's got to be a kid's book. Where, I guess there's a villain that put all the candy on Earth and on Mars, and they got to launch these cats into space to get it back or something. I don't know.
That's so cool.
You give us a couple of days and we'll come up with something that the kids will love.
We move to the next one, okay? Which is a little bit, it's a little bit easier, okay? Fingers crossed.
All right.
Phoenix shoe toilet.
Phoenix shoe toilet. That's no easier than the first one. I like the first one. Can we go back to the first one? Phoenix shoe toilet.
Phoenix.
Yeah.
Huh.
Man, Phoenix shoe toilet.
It sounds like somebody took a dump and died. Came back.
And it came back up. Phoenix shoe toilet. I mean, unless you're in you're in the airport in Phoenix and you just don't want to use the toilet there. You don't want to flush the toilet, so you're using the shoe. It sounds more like a commercial, to be honest with you. Try the new Phoenix shoe toilet.
Okay. Role-playing night.
Role-playing night?
Yeah.
We have to keep this PG, right? Role-playing night. I mean, it could kind of be like I would think of it more or less like a TV show or a movie where people are tasked with playing the roles of someone that they don't normally play, and everyone else is playing a role except for the person that is like the star of the show, let's say, and he has to figure out who everyone really is. And what they are, what they really do. Kind of like I can't remember the show that Anthony Anderson does right now, where you have to guess which one of the three people are the real person. But that's what I would think of role-playing night.
Okay, role-playing night, though.
What's going on? Hold on, guys. I would think that you're talking about a medieval knight that entertains the princess at night by doing some role play.
Ah, that's so cool! Yeah.
Okay. Warrior gamer.
Warrior gamer?
Yeah.
That's pretty easy. That's a person that gets sucked into a computer game, and they're a warrior, but they don't have any powers. They're just a warrior. They have to build up their powers and start off from scratch. So it's like a role-playing game, basically. So when they get sucked into the game, they're at level 1, and they have to become a true warrior.
That's dope indeed. About you, Zell? Warrior Gamer.
Warrior Gamer. Yeah, I mean that idea that Phil came up with sounded like it was pretty good, but I guess you could do. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so like soldiers are like warriors, right?
Mhm.
And basically, what they do is, in order to help, they do like a social program in order to help cure soldiers of some type of PTSD by having them play video games or like some type of virtual reality series or something like that. You know?
Wow.
That's a cool.
Yeah. So the next one is Waffles Cowboy.
Sounds like Cowboy Bebop. It could just be a cowboy whose nickname is Waffles, and people make fun of him because of his nickname, and he just ends up getting into a lot of shootouts and a lot of problems because of his nickname. But he won't change it because he loves waffles. So you know, he kind of does it on purpose too. Maybe he's more of a sort of a bully, you know, and who kind of likes getting into these gunfights and things like that. So he knows that people are going to make fun of his name, which is Waffles. So that's what he goes with.
What about you, Zell?
I would say a cowboy whose gun is nickname that the gun's name is Waffles, and because it leaves you all red and sticky or something. I don't know.
Okay, so here's the last one. Lazy B Cup Adventures.
Lazy B Cup?
Adventures.
B Cup.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
B Cup, the cup, mug.
Oh. See, I'm sorry. When I hear B Cup, I think of something totally different. So.
Me too. Cheers for that.
I was
like,
thinking.
I want that adventure.
I was thinking of a guy that he definitely paid for maybe a prostitute or something, and she just had some B Cup breasts or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I thought the same.
I wasn't even going to touch it because that's where I was kind of going too. But then you put the lazy in there. I'm like, I'm not touching that lazy B Cup Avenger.
It's just like maybe like this only like.
Well, I think we are done with our questions. It was an amazing interview. Actually, we enjoyed our time. We learned too many tips and tricks. We learned too many from the deep kitchen of webtoons, and discussed a little bit about the movies, the anime, and the cartoons. What do you think, Marcelo?
Was great. I really enjoyed it. It was very fun. Really enjoyed it. It was great.
So, many thanks to you, Phil. Many thanks to you, Zell. And thanks to you too, of course, Marcelo. It was an amazing interview. We enjoyed our time.
Thank you, fellas.
Was awesome. Nice to meet you guys, and we keep in touch.
Well, thanks for watching us, Warriors. Well, wait for us again the next week. We'll be talking again featuring another writer or another artist. Well, we are always going to amaze you and surprise you. Well, goodbye. See ya.
Cheers.